This is the first try at a podcast on the Hobie shop, the Narragansett Surf Shops, and how we came to home, Massachusetts. So I thought y'all be interested a little bit in the history. My name is Will Summers. Been surfing for a long time, 2008, still surfing. So that's maybe a little unusual. I've been doing it for, I guess, 47 years, something like that. Anyway, a little bit of the background. Kind of grew up on the water. My dad was stationed in Florida during the Second World War, and we body surfed in Clearwater, Florida, Gulf of Mexico, from the time we were about 3 years old. But I never saw a surfboard, and I never saw a surfboard until 1962. And one of my roommates from college had been a lifeguard in California during the summer, and he brought back a 9.2 Dwayne. Thing probably weighed 40 pounds, bright red, but it was a surfboard. And I saw that and made a note of it. And about a week later, on TV, I actually saw some people surfing. And that was the first time. I'd never even seen anybody in the water on a board. But I looked at the waves, and I said, hey, we got bigger waves down on the East Coast. I think we ought to take a shot at this. So I went back and saw my friend in New York. He had an apartment there, and I said, listen, I'd like to have that surfboard now. I'll swap you something for it. And he said, what's that? And I said, maybe a car. And it sounds crazy, but I think I sold that surfboard for $60. So I think he had to pay $25 to get the car towed away. So anyway, brought the surfboard down to the New Jersey coast, which is where we were living at the time, and saw some guys actually in the water surfing. And I said, they had wetsuits on, old beaver tail suits, two-piece and stuff like that. But they had no boots and gloves. It was in March of '63, I guess. And I said, I can do this. So I had my bathing suit on. I jumped in the water, and of course I didn't know about wax, so immediately slid right off. I thought you waxed the bottom, like skis. Anyway. So they took pity on me, came in. It was probably about 5-6 foot day that day, and said, listen, you're going to kill yourself out here. He said, we'll take you down to Manasquan Inlet, New Jersey, and a little more sheltered, and we'll maybe let you get a shot at it. And by the way, you wax the top. So anyway, we went down there, and about the second wave I got out on, I actually got up on it, and I said, this is unbelievable. It's like flying. I got to do this. So came back, and then, things sort of went along. And that spring was kind of interesting because two guys in New Jersey opened surf shops. One was in Belmar, New Jersey, opened by a friend of mine named Russ Govitt. He got the Hobie franchise for New Jersey. And the second one was by a guy named Ron DeMena. It was down on Long Beach Island, New Jersey. He had a big trailer that said SURFBOARDS on the side of it. And you all may know him better because Ron DeMena is Ron John. Anyway, I knew I was going to graduate school in Boston in the fall, looking forward to it. And packed my surfboard up. Saw a friend of mine and said, maybe I'll think about starting a surf shop up in New England. We'll see if there's any waves up there and figure out what's going on. So started up the coast, trying every beach as we went there. Wasn't much until I got to a place called Matunic, Rhode Island, and that some of you may know as Mary's Bar. Paddled out, and point break, rest is history. Came back in, met some guys. I was, again, one of the very first. There were a couple of surfboards, not much else. And said to the guys on the coast, I said, hey, where do you buy boards there? And they said, there isn't any place. And I said to myself, I'm starting a surf shop. So in, I guess, September of 1964, started ordering boards and met a few friends. We'll talk about that in a minute. And planned to open a surf shop. Rented a place on Kingstown Road in Narragansett, Rhode Island. And that was the first Narragansett Surf Shops. During that time period, I was looking for places to surf in the Boston area because we were living in Watertown. And tried North Shore a little bit, met a couple of people there in the Lynn and Nahant area, had fun up there. But I went a little further north, and I went up to a place called Good Harbor Beach on Cape Ann near Gloucester. And I was kind of walking down the beach, a couple of little waves that day, and I saw something out there that looked like a seal. And I said, what's this? And sure enough, it was a guy named Freddie Silton out on his surfboard. And we caught a couple waves together and I said, hey, you interested in working with me, starting these surf shops? He said, sure, I'll come down and help you out. So we surfed a little bit, and about a week later, we went down and surfed very early in the morning. I mean, like 4:30. It was just getting light in a town called Hull, Massachusetts. And we said, hey, this is kind of a neat place. Nice stores and everything right down the beach. Maybe we should do something here too. So that went along. We met some other folks. There's a guy named Ronnie Pare. I'll talk a little bit more about him later because he and I put a story together in Surfer Magazine. But anyhow, we built the shop up, and we had mostly pop-outs. I had that old Dwayne and a few other boards, and we're getting started, but it really wasn't anything. I'd written to Hobie, hadn't heard anything from him. And then about February 15th, a guy walks in to the shop, tan, no coat on. We knew he wasn't from where we were. And I recognized him. It was Hobie Alter. And he said, nice little shop you got here. I said, thanks. He said, show me the waves. So we drove around and went to Matunic and Narragansett and Point Judith and Newport probably, and watched guys learning to surf, and came back to the shop, and he said, I think you'll do all right. He said, let me call my office. So he calls California, and he said, send Will Summers 24 surfboards, Hobie surfboards. I said, Hobie, I don't have the money to pay for 24 surfboards. He said, oh, you'll sell them. So that's how we started. I went to Industrial National in Providence, borrowed more money than what was good for me, and started the shop in Narragansett. And we did sell them. And that summer, those of you who went down there know about it. We ran a bunch of contests. We were going and blowing. We just had a great time. So that's kind of how we got going. Then we also opened a shop in Hyannis, Massachusetts. It really wasn't much, but we saw there was a demand in Massachusetts. And then finally in the winter of '64, summer of '65, we talked seriously about opening a shop in Hull. One other thing that happened during this time is kind of important. We ended up going up to New Hampshire and Maine. We were always pushing the envelope. We would get a bunch of guys. We'd go surf in Truro and Hedda Meadows and Nauset Light and stuff like that. And we went up to New Hampshire and met the kids from Rye Beach, and there were a couple of them that surfed pretty well up there, particularly a couple of young ladies named Annie Jones and Cindy Dolan. We really liked what we saw from a lot of standpoints. So met a kid named Ricky Zetterberg, and Ricky started the shop in Rye Beach. And we also went up to York, Maine, met Linda Peters, who started Bikini Surf Shop with her folks, and it was going by then. It was a going thing. So anyway, that winter we Ronnie Pare, Pudge Thomas from Rhode Island, Freddie, and I built the shop in Hull and on Nantasket Avenue. And one of the early guys we met was Roger Crawford, and we hired Roger to be the manager for that shop, and he did a great job. I'm really proud of being associated with him. He's a wonderful guy. Roger told a couple stories which I thought were interesting. One, he told the story about Phil coming there in the winter of '65. That's a true story, and Phil kind of really dug it, but as he said, there weren't many waves, and he looked around and he said, I think I need an East Coast model. He said, my West Coast model isn't going to work here. And he says, I'll build a little nose rider and things. So that's the first Phil East Coast, and some of those boards are still around. Then he told a story a little bit about Corky Carroll. My first time that I got to know Corky was in the winter of '65. At Christmas time, I had the opportunity to go out and spend 2 weeks working in the Hobie factory in Dana Point, California, and actually living in an apartment that Hobie gave us in Laguna Beach. Spent Christmas with him that year. Got to know him and his whole family. But one of the guys we got to know was Corky Carroll, and Corky's an interesting character. So Hobie had a car in the shop. It's kind of, Surf Rat's car, and he said, well, you can use this while you're here. And but it was a car that Corky used to run around in. So anyway, it was raining one night, unusual for California, and my wife and I were driving up the coast, and didn't really see what was going on. And I came into the shop the next morning, and everybody goes, Fink, East Coast Fink. And when I said, what'd I do? And they said, you passed up Corky Carroll in his own car when you were driving last night. I hadn't seen him. Anyway, but we had a lot of fun there. Did a lot of surfing that winter, Trestles, some other neat places. Obviously, I love surfing, still do all the time since. So anyway, Corky did come east. Dave Rockin came east. The Hobie skateboard team came east. Never forget that. Roger talked about the roller coaster. We took them on the roller coaster at Surf Nantasket at least 20 times. They just would not quit. Those guys were incredible. And they did a skateboard show, and that was probably the first organized skateboard thing in New England. So then, basically, in the spring of '66, things were going and blowing in Hull. It was a big summer for us. May try to do some music about that. And the only problem from my standpoint was I was spread really thin. I had 2 shops in Rhode Island. We'd opened the Newport shop by then. We had 2 shops in Massachusetts, and we had the shop in Rye. On top of which, I kind of needed to get a real job, make some money, and I got offered a job in Vermont, Pennsylvania, making furniture. So that's what we did, and Roger, Freddie, and everybody kept that shop going, those shops going that summer. So we went on for 3 years and loved every minute of it to bring us to the summer of '68. Tremendous credit goes to Roger Crawford. Tremendous credit goes to others who kept the shops in Rhode Island and Hampshire going for that time. And finally, I sold the shops in Rhode Island and basically let Roger and others take over the shops in the other locations. And kept surfing, still surfing now. 1987, I came in 5th in the Grandmasters at Hatteras, the East Coast Championships. Won a few other contests, surfed against some good guys. Maybe not as good as Roger beating Mike Hinson, but anyway, we all try. So if that's helpful, that's a little bit story of Narragansett Surf Shops. Thank you.